Hi everyone, I'm Nadia, and in today's video I'm making a custom order of Kiwi inspired resin coasters. After mixing my part A and part B resin for a few minutes, I separate it into smaller cups to add in my pigments. This is my first time at attempting to make Kiwi coasters, so they didn't turn out perfect on the first try, but I did manage to save them, so I'll show you the whole process. The first pigment I added in was by Pebeo in the shade Emerald. I added some into my small cup of resin with a wooden stick and lightened it by adding a light green shade of mica powder. My goal here is to have a darker shade of green and a lighter shade of green and have them mix together and cause striations into the center. And I'm darkening it a little bit by adding Dupont Nighthawk Black Pearl. It has a little bit of blue tint, so I'm adding this green pigment by Resin Pro. Now I'm mixing in my lighter shade of green, and I'm using the same light green mica powder, also by Resin Pro. And to make it lighter, I'm mixing in Dupont's Ocean Wave pigment paste. Then I mixed in some of the white into a separate small cup. Now I'm ready to start pouring, and I start by taking my dark green shade of resin and pouring around the edges of the molds. And to make sure that it's reached the edges, I use a silicone makeup brush to help push the resin. Then I take my very light green shade of resin and pour around the edges as well. Then I pour clear resin into the center. As I mentioned, my initial plan was for these two different shades of green to blend together and pull into the center, but my light green was starting to show up on the edges. And in some cases, the pigment that you pour on the very edge of the mold will remain in that same spot, while in other cases, the pigments can flip and change sides. This is kind of hard to predict because it doesn't happen all the time. So I slightly panicked and started to pour more dark pigmented resin in an attempt to get it around the edges. At this point, they're way too dark and don't really resemble kiwis at all, but I do manage to fix them by adding another layer later. For the Kiwi Seeds, I'm using small black pebbles, and I pour them into a silicone cup and then place them around the center of the molds. And here I am demolding the next day. More of the light green pigmented resin sunk to the bottom, so the bottom is a little bit lighter, but they still don't resemble kiwis, so I'll be trying to fix that. I actually can't believe that they started out by looking like this, and they're going to have a huge transformation just by adding more layers. I guess it was a blessing in disguise because this way they achieved beautiful depth in the final product. Before I get them ready for another layer, I'm using a large X-Acto knife to scrape off some of the lifted edges. I'm doing this by following the same steps as I would if I were to add a top coat. So I have them propped onto a cup and I have liquid latex on the back side to protect them. I'll leave a link above if you're interested in seeing how I do that. I mixed up my resin once more, and this time I'll be using Casting Crafts white pigment. As well as the light green shade of mica powder by Resin Pro. Then I start to pour onto my coasters. I start by pouring the green pigmented resin close to the edges of the coasters. I use a torch gun to pop any air bubbles. And pour some clear resin in the center. Then I take my white pigmented resin and pour a small amount into the very center. And because the black pebbles aren't as visible anymore, I'm adding them once again. I came back the next day and decided to make them a little bit lighter, so I mixed up my resin once more and added in the same mica powder and white pigment. I came back the next day once that layer has hardened, and using an adding gold marker, I added a gold trim. And here's the final product. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you liked this video, subscribe to see more videos like this in the future. Follow me on my Instagram, Summer Girl Designs, and my mom's Instagram, Wild Heart Resin Art.